going down the rabbit hole on these, like these audiophile headphones. Might get one of those. Hear me perfectly. Appreciate that. I'll wait for a few more minutes, guys, and then we can take it from there. I'll do a. No, I didn't do one last week, so there's a lot to be done today. Maybe I'll try and get everything wrapped up in an hour and a half. But let me add an emoji to that. There you go. But yeah, we'll go over the macros. You guys know how it's done. It's been a while since we looked at everything properly. So we'll look at the indicator charts. Look at Bitcoin. Look at ETH. Our main alts, and we'll take it from there. It's been a crazy, crazy time in the market, right? I'm up a lot, nearly a whole ticket. I was up like half a mil literally just on Filecoin. Booked 50% at like $1.13, and then still had like 250k in position size left. Just gonna let that run on spot. It's not on leverage. Got my swing open still, but mainly for spot. Yes, up Caleb, how you doing, bro?
Hey, how's it going, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How about you?
Yeah, good, bro. Enjoying this leg up, although it happened so quickly. I
Yeah,
wish I was for it, but it is what it is.
yeah, it was very, very volatile. It's like, I think, well, within three or
It's nice.
four days, like 50, 60%
Yeah,
up. Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, no, I ate good. I can't complain.
yeah. No, that's good, bro. The weather is absolutely amazing here,
Ate
right? Bro, it's boiling,
now,
man.
now, yes, it's lovely.
Yeah. Uh, right, guys. I'll give it like
What's up,
a few
everyone?
more minutes.
How are you doing? How's everyone doing today? I did a live stream earlier for New York Open.
Yeah.
Not much happening really, but yeah, I'm just letting Bitcoin play out right now. I think we go higher before we do go lower, just based on where cash is sitting
Mhm.
and also where Bitcoin is right now. But I think people will be loading up for short soon. For me, as I was saying earlier, the only reason to short is if you get a break of structure. Like earlier on BTC, after New York Open, we had that support level, right? Let me pull it up now. It was 103.8, right? And I was like, as soon as you lose that level, get 5 minute close, you're safe, you're free for a short on Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm not forcing hands at the moment. I'm just patiently waiting for the right setups to emerge. And yeah, good market conditions. That I'm glad we're finally getting others' dominance picking up above 8%.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I want to go over later too, for sure. Survived by a hair's width on that one. Um, who are you talking to? Mud, Mudit. Wow. Guessing you're referring to me. Have you got me on low by any chance?
You got that name spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to emphasize the A.
No, whether I got a date with a girl from Nepal soon. You're
Really?
from Nepal.
Oh, that's sick, bro. Yeah.
You gotta give me something good. Give me a bar to say to her in Nepalese.
To be honest, bro, flirting in Nepalese is actually like it's not really the down and dirty type. It's more like the Arabic poetic type. See, I love Momo. Exactly. That's it, bed shaker. That's it.
Whether how's everything going with the AP and Bram? All good?
Say that again. Sorry, brother.
I said, how's things going with the AP apartment?
Oh yeah, everything's good, bro. We've got the lease. It's more we've got the whole building. So the solicitor made a mistake, which is why we got caught up for a bit. But now that the rent's been sorted, I went earlier in the afternoon. The current tenant has 3 months left till they book it back to Malaysia. And then after 3 months, we'll move in. A couple months to redecorate, but I'm gonna outsource that, I reckon. Um, I've got a few friends who are good at that stuff because
Get a couple Jamaicans, bro.
yeah, yeah,
Minor.
yeah. And then, because I'll be in Asia for 2 months from September, and then once we come back, Open's going to be at December, so that's good. Right, I think I will get started, guys. So, yeah,
Brother, Jesus, calm down, fella.
and bombs all over the place.
Chill, bro.
We got Sheila Hendricks in chat. Right, right, guys, I'll get started. Yeah, let me share my screen. Yo, visuals, how you doing, bro? Rohan, nice to see you. Nice to see you guys. Hope you're doing well. Okay, hour and a half to 2 hours. I think that's how long I run for, guys. So I'll record it in case anyone needs to drop out. Just catch you later as well. But okay, let's get it. So first and foremost, let's go to BTC. We'll start with BTC, and then we'll take it from there, right? So a chart you guys will be familiar with already is going to be this one. This is the one I shared in my channel. Here we go. So I said originally, right, we have two different PRZs to worry about, right? So if you scroll up a bit, it's going to be my channel there. We said here's PRZ1 and here's PRZ2, and the thesis was simple. If you go to these areas and you see sellers step in, right, you can't just go there and you short for no reason. You need sellers to actually be showing strength, aggressive buying to not be rewarded, so on and so forth, right? Then you take the short. So we had the original tap into this area right over here, right, followed by distributive structure on the lower time frame. So this was the first short that I took, and then so it was just scalp the swing shorts, right? The reason I'm doing that is because, like Caleb said, trend is to the upside. There's no point opening a swing when you're counter trading, right? When you or rather when you're counter trending, I suppose. So we are trying to catch a short when the market is pushing to the upside, which is why you go scalp to swing, right? You enter with a lower time frame basis, scalp the trade first. Once your RR hits, right, from your initial trade, might be 3, might be 4, whatever it is, you book your initial profits, you move your stop loss to break even. Only then do you attempt to run it lower into your more, let's say, ambitious targets, right? So scalp the swing, and if you don't scalp the swing, should have been fine, because eventually we did break up, and now we are at the PRZ2. Initial resistances came in at the 2.24 of the shark, right? But when you hit the 1.13 again, do you see sellers being rewarded? The answer is no. You have no candle body closes below. There's no, and this is simply in terms of a Japanese candlestick. I'm not even pulling up order flow yet, right? We have no sellers being rewarded here, hence you don't short. Just because a target is hit doesn't mean you immediately take a short, but sellers were rewarded once we got to this top. So scalp the swing mindset trades would have been here. Maybe you got stopped out once or twice, but ultimately we have hit the final target for now, which is 105,641, right? We pinged to the 886 of the shark, and that is my current short entry. Not the exact top there, right? So once I saw the reaction from there, my current entry is 104,800 for the short, right? So that's hit, and now it's, I'm going to take scalp the swing still, right? So once my RR target hits, I'm going to book some profits, and then I'm going to attempt to run the rest to either this, and if that's lost, down over here. Otherwise, I get stop top break even, and I either get a double top or we come and raid all-time highs. That's literally the next option that you have, right? Because if you get above 105, I reckon you go and raid all-time highs. So you just wait for that, right? Like Caleb said, don't force hands, right? If you get a chance, just take it. Risk managed, that's it. But very simple on Bitcoin. But another view, of course, is something you guys will be familiar with. Maybe not many of you, but if you watch my streams on a regular basis, the diagonals, right? We have hit the next area of the diagonal, and we are not getting above it for now, right? Again, buys have not been rewarded over here. And if we turn on aggressive buying, we can see huge aggressive buying going on at this area, at the diagonal, right? What was once support, resistance is still resistance. So can we have one more flush up? Yes. Like I've been saying, this is going to be like a couple months ago. I said you have an intersection mid-May to start of June, right? Which is why we said there is a target to come back towards this price by mid-May, start of June, and we're on track for that right now. And this was mentioned like when we were down over here, right? Maybe go a month back. It's one of the recordings that I said it. We've got an intersection for mid of May, start of June type of time. That can still hit, right? For me, that's still going to be the major draw on liquidity, a big flush of that. And then if you distribute based off that, that's going to be where the nice short is. But for now, again, scalp to swing in just because it's opportunity. Aggressive buyers are not being rewarded, right? If I see aggressive buyers are not being rewarded, I'm going to counter trade them. We can get a visual confirmation of this if we look at the order flow, right? So I want you to take a look at the hourly or the 4 hours, it doesn't matter, but if you were to take a look here, what you notice is, right, take a look over here, what do you notice? In this hourly candle, we had a total of basically 20k volume, right, 20k volume, and the buyers won out overall. We have 856 more on the buyer side than the seller side, right? So there was more aggressive buying than aggressive selling during this candle. But I want you, what I'm going to ask you guys is, does the actual candlestick represent that fact? And the answer is no, right? Because if the aggressive buying had been rewarded, you would have had a massive just green candle to the upside, right? Because the thesis is market longs are coming in and they're coming in with volume and they're breaking the supply wall, so we're going to be going euphorically higher, right? But look at the candle, look how it closed, right? I want you guys to notice specifically, how did the candle close, how did it look? Why is there, oh wait, no, right there. What you notice is that is a massive bearish doji, right? You have a massive SFP to the upside, right? But even though what you're saying is, even though aggressive buyers won out, you closed with a swing failure pattern, right? What does this mean? This means that even though there were all these aggressive buyers, the aggressive buyers were not able to overcome the sell wall. Where does the selling come from then? It comes from the limit sellers, okay? So your passive traders, your aggressive traders could not absorb, or rather break through your passive traders, right? Your market longs, because this is specifically the perpetual chart, so this is now in terms of longs, right? Your market longs could not overcome your limit shorts. They say your market longs got absorbed, the buyers are now offside straight away. As soon as this candle closes like this, the buyers are confirmed offside, right? They're on the wrong side of the trade. Other things, you close below your value area, you close below your high volume node, in this case the point of control, the most traded volume, you close below everything. That is a massive bearish SFP, right? So that for me was the trigger to pull the short, right? And once currently it's down, in fact I think my aura is very close to being hit, so I might just book some profits, and then after that we're going to just set stop loss to break even, because if it wants to have a drive higher, I'm going to let it go higher, right? I don't want to leave anything in the anything green go into the red. But for now, we do have a reason for why did we have this little sell-off here, is because these buyers were absorbed, right? And buy absorption, seller absorption, this is extremely valid, right? In fact, this is a confirmation now of actual executed trades, okay? These work very, very well. I could give you another example. I think I've gone over this before in a stream. But if you take a look at Ethereum, right, people are going to be very surprised. Why did ETH, why did it have such a strong bounce, so on and so forth? But first and foremost, if you were to take a look at Ethereum, right, firstly, it's hit the key levels we were talking about, right? There's no question about it. Ethereum has, why is it not loading? 1 second. There, okay. Ethereum has hit the key levels we talked about. So I was talking about ETH for a long time over here, saying as long as this is held, your next target is going to be to go and attempt to reclaim the key inflection area, right? We held it and we went above. I gave you guys this perspective, and I also gave you guys this perspective, right? So two different ones, same story, right? The key zone that we needed to hold, held, right? But now if you take a look at it, not just in terms of Japanese candlesticks, right? But we look at it in terms of order flow. And again, I've gone over this in a previous stream too, but if we take a look at this in terms of order flow, what we see is, take a look at what you see on Ethereum down over here. Now this is on Bybit. You can look at it again on any platform. It's going to be the same. What we see is, right, on this weekly candle in the 7th of April 2025, your total volume executed on Bybit, right? And again, this is the perpetual chart, so this is going to be longs and shorts. You had a total of 23.06 million in terms of contract swap in hands, right, in terms of your volume. And on top of that, which side had the edge? in terms of just the raw data, the side that had the edge was the sellers. You look at it, right? The delta is negative 313,710, meaning that's how much more volume was due to shorts, not longs, right? So aggressive sellers won out during the duration of this candle is what we're saying, okay? However, again, I want you guys to note, how did the candle close? Is it a massive red dildo? It's not, right? That is what you would expect if you're saying that there were this much more aggressive selling. You would expect a massive bearish red candle, but that is not what you see. You see a green candle, right? You see absorption. In fact, if I was to do this, let me just quickly set this to manual with a 1000 tick. Done. Let me just wait for that to load. 1 second. There we go. So you doing it in terms of ticks, what you notice is, right, look at this low. You had 14.93k aggressive shorts versus just 1.99k aggressive longs, and yet look how the candle closed. Just keep looking at these lows. There's way more aggressive selling than buying, way more aggressive selling than buying, way more aggressive selling, way more aggressive selling, way more aggressive selling, right? Yet the candle closed above all of that. In the face of all this aggressive selling, you close with the SFP now to the upside, meaning, again, what we're saying, the aggressive sellers were absorbed, right? For every buyer, there's a seller. For every seller, there's a buyer. And in this case, for every shorter, there's a longer, which means the aggressive shorts, they were absorbed by your limit longs, okay? So the limit long, the passive buy wall, basically, the passive long wall was too strong for the sellers to break down, right? This is a sign now of seller absorption. What we looked at BTC earlier was a sign of buyer absorption. Now we have a sign of seller absorption, right? What this is telling you is that, again, all of these shorts are now caught offside. Look, you closed above your value area low. You closed within your value area. You closed above your point of control. Your most traded volume node, you closed above it, right? So now what you're saying is you're not going to be surprised if this does not indicate the bottom. There's no guarantees this will be the bottom, but what this will indicate to you is there's a very high chance we at least have a pump to liquidate these people. Anyone who shorted here now, run them offside. And in this case, we've done that. We've taken out all our imbalances, right? And now I think, do you enter ETH? No, I will not enter ETH here, right? But what you have is now a good short opportunity on ETH, and we'll go over that in a minute. But the thing I want to point out right now is this, right? We had a seller absorption over here, and this led to this big move up. This was on the weekly, so it's a bigger time frame, hence the bigger move. And on Bitcoin, we had an hourly buyer absorption, hence why I'm not looking at 40% drops on Bitcoin off this one buyer absorption, right? It's a scalp trade, scalp to swing mindset trade. Hence, looking at the hourly and not looking for like a 30% drop in price, but just to our next key level, and that's it. Right, so we were to go to the hourly. Just wait for it to load. It's a bit messy with ticks, but yeah. So that there, clear as day, right? So hopefully that was a bit helpful, a different perspective to traditional Japanese candlesticks. But it's very nice to know where is the actual buying and selling coming in, because think about it, right? When you're looking at limit orders, when you're looking at big orders are sat, many people do this. There's many different ways you can spoof an order book. There's icebergs, there's trenches, there's literal just spoofing where there's bots getting rid of your big orders at the last possible second to induce FOMO to a particular area before you just get ran through, right? But with footprint charts, what you're seeing is executed trades. This, you cannot doctor these results, right? Because once someone hits market long and market buy and the contracts have swapped hands, that is what this records. You cannot doctor that result, which is why I love looking at this as a confluence, as a perspective. Just thought.
Yeah, as far as volume confluences go, I know a lot of people look at volume profile as well.
Yeah.
I personally tend to look more to delta volume,
Yeah.
just because that's calculating the inflows versus outflows. So on a higher time frame, lower time frame, it gives you an edge of when you're going to see the earliest reversals.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is cool. I ain't seen this before.
Yeah, bro, this is really, really nice. Yeah, so it comes under order flow, footprint charts for this. If you can get this on TradingView if you've got the premium version. It's going to be right here, volume footprint. They've added a lot of because these weren't there before: session volume profile, time price opportunity. The TPOs are another good one to look at. These weren't here before. You had to use like ATAS or Exo charts, Sierra charts if you wanted to get order flow tools. But now that TradingView have added it, it's really nice, yeah, to have everything in one place.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so that's that, right? But that's my current thoughts on Bitcoin. I'm in a scalp short, scalp to swing short. I'm risk free. If I get stopped out, I'll look for a rate of all time highs pretty much. Otherwise, the opportunity for me to now enter a long would be if we got a deeper flush towards my first target is now going to be what was once resistance, right? This target I gave you guys for where we were looking for sellers to stay active. If you can go there and now buyers can come in, that's where you're going to look for your longs. If you go here, buyers don't step in, and this level is also lost, then I'll be looking to raid all of these lows, right? Maybe we get 89 to 88 at some point. That zone's still valid as a retest, but we'll have to see. You need to lose this as support now before you can think about this. Okay. So that's Bitcoin. Let's move on to Ethereum next then, since we've already mentioned it. Ethereum, I think you do have a nice opportunity for, well, the risk reward's a bit worse now because this move's happened. But for now, what I'd do is, if you can do this and turn this into resistance, you've got a really nice opportunity to, again, scalp the swing mindset short back towards the downside, right? We've had a very aggressive move up. Many things have had a very aggressive move up. The last lower highs that led to the lower lows have been taken out, and pretty much every altcoin there is, right? So the last lower highs that led to lower lows have been taken out. We just need a confirmation of a higher low to confirm that trend shift. And I'm talking on the 3-day, on the weekly, so on and so forth, right? You might have had this on the 1 hour or whatever, but for like a swing perspective, we need those dailies, those weeklies to come in and give us those higher lows. So the first opportunity to short ETH would have been up over here. I didn't catch this, right? I was asleep actually when this happened, so I didn't catch this. So the next opportunity to short ETH is going to be if we go and turn this area into resistance. Okay, you can have lower time frame distributive structure if we do that. If not, then we just wait for it just to go back to the highs. That's it, right? Maybe you look for, depending on how the daily closes, you might be able to get a long off, right? Have we got a 4-hour close? Whether the 4-hour has just started, 1 hour. What about the 15? So the 15, that would have been a nice entry there, something like this. But the next bet's just waiting for the hourly to 4-hour to close, right? That's it. If I miss the time frame and the price, I'm just gonna wait for the next one. It's just the way I like to do things. Keep the risk to reward really, really tight. But if you do lose this, right, then you do have a really nice short opportunity here on ETH. And the other one is, of course, if you go up here and you start SFPing up this level, you'll be able to catch some really nice scalp the swing mindset shorts back down towards this level, right? Because you have a lot of liquidity there to take out and then to come lower. So those two other areas to watch now for ETH. But on the daily, if you take a look, right, if the daily closes like this, that's not a nice candle at the end of the day. Like, you can try, if the daily closes like this, you can try for something like this, right? I'm not saying you're coming back all the way to 1,900, but what you can do is, if the daily was to close like that, then you can try a scalp the swing mindset short. If you look in the daily 1 hour to 4 hour entry models, right, once the daily closes, you can open up, let's say, 50% of your position size based off this, and then open up the remaining 50% should you actually go and turn this into resistance, right? There's no point opening up your full position size when you are above the level. That needs to be held at the end of the day. But this short is simply because you do see that that's a nasty candle right over there, right? So that's something you can attempt to do. If you are completely long and you need some hedges, you can try and hedge it like this, down towards these targets, in my opinion, somewhere within here. Risk to reward of 3, right, just there. But that's Ethereum. So that's the two majors. But this is why I say it's like, it's not everyone's bearish until you're not, right? And the thing is, this is where you position, which is what I mentioned, right? And this is what I said. I de-risked on ETH over here because I anticipated if you lose this level, you're gonna go towards 1,500. Right? I was 6 figures deep into ETH at that point, and I took like 60% off. Added it back at this particular area right over here, right? And then now that's back up again. These are the moments when you have no one's looking at it, but TA is telling you, right? Not what is the emotion is telling you, not what is this KOL on Twitter or this person telling you, just based off your system. If TA is telling you at a significant level and buyers are stepping in, aggressive selling is not being rewarded, so on and so forth, then that's all you have to take a bet off, right? That's all you can do. Because like I was mentioning here, either you take a bet here where your risk is easy to manage, or now I'm sure if you didn't enter here, you're gonna be looking at this thinking, oh, like I missed out. What if it keeps going higher? FOMO is going to be kicking in, but you cannot manage your risk over here for an entry anymore. So I'm not going to be giving longs until we pull back to this area. Okay, so you just can't do anything to mitigate your risk over here. That's the problem. Not on a significant time scale. But that is ETH, right? So what we're gonna do next is, hang on, let me check back to the chat, make sure. That's not an indicator, brother. That's the actual footprint chart. Hey, sup, Miranda. Welcome. Nice to see you in here. You're right. How you doing, bro? Hope you're good, man. Is Farcoin gonna pull back? I wish I could tell you with certainty. I'll have to take a look. Let's take a look. We'll take a look in a minute, okay? I'll go over the macro indicator charts first, and then we'll take it from there. Daily Sanchez. Hopefully that answered your question. I think I went over that when I was talking earlier. If you have the actual premium in TradingView, you can do it based off from up over here, right? But you do got to understand order flow before you do it. It's not as simple as, oh, you know, I see this, so I'm gonna get in, right? There's of course there's nuances to it. But yeah, order flow trading is very, very good, right? So between TPOs and footprint charts, that's a lot of order flow, very significant order flow that most people aren't even aware exists, right? But it's really, really good. Right, let's look at the macro indicator charts. So, real quick, Dixie dropped to range lows, hit the 98 levels we were talking about, right, Raid, but now you are back within. At an intersection. Either you do this, or you do this. But until you go and confirm this to be resistance, we can't just expect a death drop, okay? Now, traditionally, alts have always been absolutely like humongously rallying when Dixie's been on an absolute breakdown, right? So if this is a breakdown and we do get another lower high, can expect alts to carry on performing, basically old season, right, whatever you want to call it. Expect that to be full force in the swing. But if we do reclaim and we go up, maybe we get one more flush across the markets, get the delayed cycle scenario I've been mentioning, which is where we actually have a really choppy summer, and maybe pump into the latter half of third quarter / start of fourth quarter, not first, third quarter, and then start of fourth quarter, right? But let's do this, get rid of this. Okay. USDT dominance, again, area to be very wary. We're at the same area, right? This is support. You are also at, if I do this, I believe this is the, come on, man. Yeah, you're at terminal 2. Okay, so this is your second target for this harmonic. Very nice area. So you have your historical diagonal. You guys should be very familiar with this. We've been looking at this for years now, right? You have the historical diagonal, and you also have your second target for the harmonic, right, bearish harmonic. If this holds, you might get some sort of type to return back to the highs. Okay, if that happens, everything is once again going to take a big fat shit. So just be careful about long in here. And this is why I keep telling people, right, the areas where no one wants to long, right? This is where we were streaming regularly and I was saying, look, so many coins look good. AVAX, Say, Aptos, Sui, Cetus. We went over this time and time again, right? Now all of those are pumped like 2x's. It's like, is now a good time to buy? Hell no. I'm not going to tell you guys to buy here. Right, not until we get a higher low. Because if this bounces from here, guess what? We're going to get another like 30-40%. Maybe we get, not maybe 30-40%, but we're going to see some nice red candles. And if you're in from the lows, you're not even going to blink. Because your low is probably not going to get visited if the low is in, right? However, if you're now looking to bid entries here at $4 Sui and $180 Sol, you're going to be in pain if you go back down to 140, 130. You're going to be in big pain. That's possible liquidations, right? So just be wary of longs here now, right? You want to see a breakdown from this level, like something like this, turn into resistance. Most importantly, lose 4.32%, right? You want to lose that. If you lose that, you know, 3.42%, and then maybe even 1.618, 2.14 would be a next target. However, above this, you have a very high, even if you do this, that's going to be some nice red across the market. Okay, the whole reason we got such an impulsive green is because of this red candle. So we could just easily outdo that, okay? That's something to watch as well. Next, a very nice thing I want to talk about is Ethereum dominance. This thing, if you guys remember, what I was saying was the last bastion of hope for ETH dominance is the red box. Okay, massive red box. You have a buyer zone there from history, right? from monthly. There's a monthly buy zone in that area. You rated it, aggressive selling went on basically, right? So in this case, of course, we know it's not actual sellers, but it stands nonetheless, right? Huge amount of way out to the like second, third standard deviation in terms of selling, right? Disproportionate selling. And what we've done is, off the back of that, we've held the low, we've rated the low, right? We rated your 2019 lows, and then we've had a nice reaction. As long as we are above the 886 and this 8.80%, I'm happy. As long as we are above this. What I do not want to do is start turning this to resistance and come back down again. Because if we can now maintain above this, this harmonic is still in play. Okay, so this harmonic has not been invalidated. It's still in play. And then you'll be looking for targets. Right, so let me switch to over here once. We have Ethereum dominance, right? This is what we're looking at. The bad 886 is at 8.84%. As long as we can hold this zone, basically, right, between 9.13 and 8.84, we're Gucci. We're gonna go up. Even if you go lower, the thing to do, which should be obvious, is we should not go back to visit these lows. If these are visited again, they are really, the market maker is absolutely diabolical. Okay, so I want to see sustained closes above this. It's as simple as that. Right? If you can do that, ETH can push higher because Ethereum dominance can go higher. In fact, here's the targets. Okay, your terminal one, again for you pure harmonic traders, that's going to be the 382. I've got my own system, hence the zone. Okay, between 12 to 13%, 12.2, 13.34. Your terminal two, between 16.48 and 17. Poor choice of colors here, 9.6. Right, and if you get above that, your final target is going to be the A. Above that, in my opinion, you go to 31%. Right, now this might seem like a ridiculous price target, but I'm not saying we're going to get there in a week. Okay, maybe within the next 5-10 years there's going to be a certain period where for whatever reason everyone turns into an ETH maxi, right? Maybe the narrative is set for ETH to do really well for a time, right? If something like that were to happen, we can't discount the fact that Ethereum could reach this as potential as a target. The target is there, hence if the narrative is right, we can't say that's never going to reach. Right? But of course, don't focus on this and think that, okay, we're going to go 31% this cycle. There's no guarantees. Your first target is 12.84%. Okay, after that is 17.13%. I'll be very surprised, to be honest, if we get even this cycle, right? But let's see. Because what we could do is do something like this, chop around to the next halving, and maybe like, around 2030, 2031, next decade could be when we really break out of this, right? This is a multi-year time frame, don't forget. This is 2019, this is 2025, 6 years in the making. So they clearly are in no rush to let this chart play out, right? So don't expect this like, Weatherman said we're going to go to 31%, so it needs to go this cycle even, or in the next week. This is higher time frame projections. If this low isn't violated and this harmonic is respected, this will be a target, basically. Take it like that, okay? So, but for now, again, focus on these two. Okay, the 382 and the 618 specifically. That is Ethereum dominance. So next, let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Because again, this is something you guys will be very familiar with. This ABCD, I put it down ages ago, right? Literally February, we were looking at this saying, there is a 618, so that 1.618 should hit at some point. We have pretty much hit it, right? It's a very nasty front run, but what you have done is front run the mid of that 2-week fair value gap and front run the 1.618. Right, for all intents and purposes, this target has been hit. If they want to give us a proper tap from a sweep, I'm more than happy to accept that, right? But for now, that is the 2.24 hit, right? So if we get a structure shift from this, so the last high low that led to the higher high, if that gets taken out and then a lower high comes in, I'd say that is it. Expect full-blown alt mania. If we don't and we simply just put a higher low in, then I would think you go to that, and if you flip this, I think you get 70% plus on Bitcoin dominance. Okay. So that's your two scenarios right now. We either break structure and confirm a lower high to then be like, okay, we've got the lower high, I think alts are going to go absolutely mental from here. Or we just get a higher low from this pullback and we just continue the high low trend all the way up to our next area. 70.03, 70.98. Above that, 73.63. Okay, so that is Bitcoin dominance. But this is what I mean, patience, right? This was a high time frame weekly signal, so we can't be surprised it took a couple months, right? I gave this one in February, and it took until May, pretty much, right? Pretty much 3 months to actually hit, right? And it's not fully hit yet, but it might, so we'll see, right? but structure hasn't shifted yet. On the daily, not shifted. On the weekly, not shifted. So your trend hasn't shifted on any significant time scale. Any questions so far before I carry on? Yeah, I've got this recorded, bro. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the chili zone. That's it, Batman. Right. So we're gonna look at a few. Let's speed run this. Right, total one. I was telling you guys this one looks the most bullish, so let's get rid of this. And we're not surprised we're getting such a nice reaction here at the end of the day, right? That one has nearly hit. So let's take a look. Do we have reasons for why we could reject, right? Well, first and foremost, if you could do this on total one, your last high is here. 86 has not hit yet, so this shark is still in transition, let's say. It's in the making, right? Still cooking, it's not ready yet. Here we go. Okay, so this is that level, and this is your shark 0.886. And we know a shark can go up to a 2.24 in the extension. Okay, so we're going to go up, and I'm just going to go ahead and put down the 2.24 of the shark. And this is another reason why I think, like, you know, I don't know, I'm not sure if the apex of this impulse is in yet or not, right? Because, you know, if Total One does decide to go take these out, then, you know, there's a very high chance Bitcoin goes with it, right? So let me do that, do this, do that, settings, Control V, text, shark 2.24. Right, we've got a nice PRZ there. Anything else if we can jot down? Well, the answer is yes, right? Let me do this one sec here, and then so the next one is we can take the XABCD tool again, and what about a shark from this high over here? Well, if you do that, that is not a shark anymore, so that's fine. This isn't a shark, which means we have this high next, and in fact I'm going to take it from there. 518, nice. There we go, perfect, right? This has given you the 1.13 extension for the shark. Remember, for the shark, this can be anywhere between 886 to 1.13. So now we have a reason as to why all that aggressive buying was not rewarded on Bitcoin, right? We can now build off context. In Total One, what we did is we went and we collided straight headfirst into resistance, and we could not break above. So let me just go and mark those out. This is your shark 1.13. Right, there we go, perfect. Now the question is, do we have the 886 of this shark being valid with the 1.618? So the next key area is right over here. We're looking at the 1.618 on the extension. There we go. So for more local price action, there. These two other ones I'm going to be looking at, right? So to make it not confusing, if we can flip the shark 1.618 into support, we're going to go higher. And, you know, there's confluence there with, in fact, let me use a box for this, with a daily buy seller zone. So we're going to lock that in place. Therefore, what you need to hold is this area right over here. As long as this holds, I think this pushes up towards the higher targets. Okay. If it doesn't hold, you turn it to resistance, back down towards 3.01 trillion. You go. That's your next key level. Simple. Now you can, you know, I'm sure you could go ahead and put more harmonics down if you wanted to, right? So for example, I'm sure what we haven't done is done this, for example, right? From this peak or even from this peak, you could go over here and you could say, okay, there's a XA, exactly what we did for Bitcoin, basically. Right, so you know your 886 is going to be, in fact this one's really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one down. Just make it red. And let's turn these off for now so it's not confusing. 0.886 slash 2.24 is what we're interested in, right? So we're just building up confluence here. I'll be done soon. I know some people find things like this boring, but you've got to find key levels, right? If you don't have key levels, then you're, hang on, I've messed up, haven't I? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Coordinates. There we go. Okay, so that's your shark. 0.886. Okay, and your 2.24 for the shark is literally in the same area, pretty much, right? So we're gonna go and ping it to the 2.24, which is the max extension for a shark. There you go. And here is your shark 2.24 there. This I'm gonna put at the bottom. This I'm gonna put the top, so it is an overlay once I zoom out. Yeah, perfect. And you can do it from this extreme as well, but for now I'll just leave it with this, right? Here you go. So now we have a very, very nice area, and the area I'm particularly interested in is this up over here, right? If we can SFP here and we distribute, then we can argue for resistance. We can argue for supply line. We can say, okay, another lower high, maybe we get one more bigger flush before we get the breakout. However, should we go raid, flip this to support, now we have an argument for further expansion towards our higher targets that we've got. Right? So these are something to watch on Total One. Right? But currently, the reason we're rejecting is we have hit, again, pretty much to the T, we hit the shark 1.13, right? 3.35 trillion. And that is what's causing us to go lower. So for me, this would be the next target somewhere here. If we can hold this, we carry on going higher. If we turn it to resistance, then 3.01 trillion, previous all-time highs, is where I'd expect prices to go. Just getting some key levels for you guys there, and we can, hang on, put it here. There, perfect, right? But Total One, basically, Total One looks absolutely amazing, right? Right now, it looks really, really good. Do a pullback? Maybe, but who are we to decide when the market pulls back, right? Pulls back when it wants to. It's as simple as that. We just get our significant levels and read the price action once price gets to a significant level. Once buyers or sellers show us an edge, we just go with the side that shows us an edge. That's it, right? So that's Total One. Looks absolutely fantastic. Like, these targets are still in play. This, right, this bat is still in play. Not bat, sorry, deep crab is still in play ultimately up towards 4.42 trillion. Don't lose sight of the higher picture. Right, this is the same thing I've been saying for the longest time now. Now we do have, if we decide to distribute here, these are now valid wave structures that could take us further to the downside. Right, if we do get another lower high and then for some reason something crazy happens, some sort of massive black swan, that just absolutely messes up the market. Right, we do have still 2.22 trillion, we have 2.03, 2 trillion, so on and so forth as potential targets for a pullback. But again, when you're above this, what's the point in even thinking about that, right? We were thinking about it when we looked like we were going to hit it. This one got front run, we went up. So for now, since they're still valid, I'm going to leave them on, but I will turn them invisible because I'll only think about those. Should we go and lose these levels again, right? You turn 2020 all-time high into resistance again. If that's the case, then you have a shot at doing that. Otherwise, there's no point looking at some sort of wave structure and being like, oh, we have to hit that, but we don't. As long as we're above this, now we're prioritizing higher, right? But that's Total One. Looks absolutely fantastic, and that's, I'm not even trying to exaggerate. It looks really, really good, right? So what about Total 2? Now, if you guys remember me saying this scenario months in advance, I was saying Total 2. 86 of the bat is there. We have the smiley face. Mid got reclaimed, therefore expect to pump back towards range highs. But if you cannot get above range highs, this is going to be macro distributive structure. Does anyone remember me saying that? Like, actually, even when we're down over here, we were saying it back in March, right? We were saying it back in February even, right? We're finally getting it like 2-3 months later, right? We've got the smiley face that's gave us this. So here's very, very simple, okay? If you can flip this into support, something like this, you are fine. You're going to go higher. ETH is going to carry on going up. If, however, you do this and you SFP, the weekly closes and SFP, you cannot get above, and you confirm this to be resistance. The worst thing is if you close back below the dotted white line, you have that inverted smiley face structure that I've been talking about for the longest time has the potential to be put in, right? So let's see how the 2-week closes. Let's see how the weekly closes. Those are going to be significant, but this is a make it or break it level for total 2. You do not want distributed structure coming in at this area, right? Look, resistance, resistance, radar liquidity, massive aggressive buying. You can see that back to resistance. That's not going to be a good look. If that happened, I would expect some sort of like macro flush before higher. Okay, so just my current thought, which is another reason I'm saying, like, you know, looking for some scalp to swing ETH head shorts in this area is a good move, right? Because if this does play out and it go lower, then guess what? ETH is going to be going lower, right? Or at least ETH is going to be going is going to be losing its value at a quicker rate than Bitcoin is going to be doing that, right? So, but since total 2, we know total 2 has everything but Bitcoin, this going down is going to be correlative with ETH losing its value. Okay, so just be wary of this, please. Total 3 looks good. If you can close above this, looks even better. If you can't close above this, and we can look at this on the daily too, if you SFP this area but you close below on the daily, total 3 also has a reason why we could go lower. So here's the thing with many of these things, right? The last lower highs that led to lower lows have all been taken out. We're just waiting for a higher low to come in. Everything right now, if you hopefully you can see, total 1, right? Total 2, total others. Sorry, this is total 3, not others. Total 3. Everything is sat at resistance, literally at resistance. And just take a look. Let me just highlight the area there. This is 2022 yearly level and 2024 yearly level, sat at resistance. If you cannot close above, you are going to have a pullback, right? So this is the reason why I'm saying be very, very, if you're a late longer and you think you need to long everything with your entire net worth right now, right? So just wait until these are all now flipping to support, or the high, just wait for the higher low confirmation. That's the next thing to do for your macro swings. Wait for the higher low confirmation, because that is going to guarantee you your confirmation of the trend shift, right? Back to an uptrend, and then on the macro, that's when you go extremely parabolic. Okay, but total 3 at resistance. Again, trend, we have what we call a change of character, right? But a trend shift hasn't been confirmed yet. We need a high low. Now the high low could come in here. The high low could come in here. It could come in over here. The question is, we don't know where it's going to come in, right? All we can do is wait for it to come. That's it. Once we see the signs of it come in, that's when you place your bids before we go absolutely parabolic. Total 3. Let's look at others. Right, others again, smiley face like I mentioned, right over here, right? Again, what did we say? If you said, as long as this low is held, we are going to go up to this range, right? We rejected it. If you can get above that, we say we're going back towards the mid. You've gone to an area that was once very buyer controlled. That's this zone. You're treating it as resistance. Others is still the weakest. Okay, others is definitely the weakest chart that we have. However, the 886 has now been respected. We've got confirmation of the 886. Again, this is something I pointed out when we were like all the way up over here. Right, we said, okay, there's an 886 here. If we do lose this grey box, we go to the 886. What we said, we hit that, we respected it. So if this low is not violated now, if this is the low, 1.13 is our target, 485.84 billion. Okay, which lines up with the previous all-time highs basically. I think what you do is you go there, maybe a little bit of a chop, either a little bit of a chop or a straight blast through. You're not going to get like perfect price action here. You never do a range extremes. But above this, I think 547 billion is next. Rate of all-time highs, and also 0.886 basically at this low. So the reciprocal ratio of the 886 is the 1.13, right? So I'll be looking for that 1.13 extension right over there. So that is others, right? Total DeFi next. Again, absolutely fantastic, right? We looked at this bat, right? We looked at this, we said there is a bat here. So if you can hold this 886 of the bat, which is what this is, right? If you can hold that, you're going to go higher. You smiley faced it. You turn the supply line into support, and now you have a breakout. Again, the last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out, right? We're simply waiting for a higher low to come in. Now, could this be the higher low? The answer is yes, it could. You have at the end of the day, you have a breakout, and then you have a retest, right? Could that be the higher low? Yes. We don't know, right? But if you were looking at this hourly as the higher low, you would have taken your hourly longs when you saw this SFP. You would have been like, okay, there's the higher low. I'm going to take longs based off this on any DeFi projects. That has now hit resistance, right? So what we do is we wait, and we just now see, right? You know, if you get a pullback back towards 90.54 billion, it's going to be a bit if the buyers step in. If you get a pullback towards 0.5 slash the mid of this range, it's going to be a bid if buyers step in. If you don't do that, then the next area we're going to be going is that daily buy seller zone that's just below this green dot right over here. We just take it level by level. All we do is wait to see where do buyers step in. Okay, that's all. I'm going to mark this out because it looks nice, right? That would be a nice high low if we did get it. So let's mark that out. But again, DeFi also change of character. We just need a confirmation of a high low. That's it. So you can see pretty much every macro metric that we have, literally every macro metric that we have has shifted trend, right? We've got a change of character. We just haven't got the high low yet to confirm that the trend has shifted. That's all we're waiting for. That's going to be the final bids, right? If you're still sidelined, you're looking for the high low to come into bid. If you want to bid with size, otherwise you're going to have to scalp. That's it. You missed the lows, you're going to have to scalp at these prices. Opening swing trades here doesn't make any sense. You're already up like 60%, 80%, 2x on 2x, like 150%, so on and so forth on many olds, right? So that's total DeFi, right? Total DeFi dominance trying to reclaim a key level. Others dominance finally, right? So what we said was this is your last saving grace, right? The butterfly 1.272 was your last saving grace for others dominance. The 1.272 from the butterfly was right over here. Hang on. If it wants to give it to me anyway. There you go. 7.66. Right, that was the 1.272 we were looking at. It held, right? That's the only reason you're surviving here. If that hadn't held, we would have gone to our macro target, which we had, which is around 6.5%. That would have come. This was the last saving grace. Buyers knew it, they defended it for now. But you're back at resistance, right? What was one support right now is resistance. The original Gartley, right? Which is what I gave you guys back in 2023 even. Right, the original Gartley, that the 786 of that is right over here. If you can reclaim this, what we can say is the type 2 return of the Gartley has been successful, and then we can really run this higher. Okay, so we're getting to very interesting places. What we need is confirmation of basically a flip. I'd want to see something like this, maybe, right? If you can now reclaim this as support, this looks very good to go higher. But currently, as we speak, others dominance is a resistance, supply line resistance, horizontal levels resistance, diagonal resistance in terms of that trend. So again, you'd be very careful with your alts longing at resistance, because again, we know if this goes down, that's going to take alts with it collectively, right? So those are the macro indicator charts. I know that might have been a bit boring because it's not your actual coins, but we need to go over it because you can't just look at coins, right? If you want to trade successfully and you want to trade seriously, these are things you need to consider before you even think about, am I going to long, am I going to short, am I going to buy, am I going to sell, right? Think of this like a compass. If you're a sailor, you're out at open sea with nothing, right? No compass, no telescope, you're absolutely fucked, right? It's the same thing here. This is what you use to navigate, to ground yourself, okay? So let me check back to the chat. Okay, no questions, that's good. Let's move on then. So let's look at a few alts. I'm just going to do a quick update on the alts we have been talking about, right? So first things first, Solana, okay? Insane rally, right? So what I mentioned, what I've been always talking about with Solana is, I mentioned if you lose this level, right, the next bid is going to be between 102 to 78 at these horizontal levels, right? We filled two of them basically. My average entry for the fresh sold trade is at $100, right? Right over here is at $100. And I did get my group into this from those levels as well. We were talking about this a lot, right? $100. Now, do you enter sold here? Again, hopefully look at this and you say, no, you don't, right? What was one support is currently resistance. You can see that, right? Just zoom out, look at it holistically. Do you enter a long at this area? The answer is no. If you want to enter a long, you need to see this, right? And then this top half turning into support. That is how you would long this. Otherwise, this is not where you look for spot buys. This is not where you look for longs, right? I would look for a pullback. Again, you know, the last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out, right? We just need a higher low to come in. That's it. So where's the higher low going to come in? God knows. We'll have to look at key level, right? We look at key levels. We look at, okay, let's take a look. Let's go to the weekly, right? For example, this here would be a area for me to watch for a higher low, right over here, right? Below that, what do we have? Your first target, of course, is going to be, what do you do at 169.94, right? If you keep defending 169.94, exactly like this, right? Then this is where you take your trades. You enter when the confirmation opens, you put your stop loss below, retest below, account for historical deviations too, and then you run it to your next target, right? I would have taken this trade if I saw it. I was busy. I didn't take this myself, but that was a nice trade looking at it, right? You're at resistance. So where you are currently is, in terms of significant levels, the middle of buttfuck nowhere. You don't do anything here. You either wait for this, or you wait for this. You wait for that flip to long, or you wait for another SFP to short, or you wait for that flip to short, or a successful rate to reclaim, or successful even just hold like this to long again. That's your scalp to swing trades. If you lose that, if you close below and you get some sort of retest, but then now you're getting SFPs just like this, you're getting it over here, that's your short. You're going to short that to your next key level, right, which is going to be the box that we drew down. Okay, so just keep a note of the key levels. All you need to do is set alerts, watch price action. That's it. Okay, Solana. Vanry, one of the ones that popped really hard, right, off the levels we were talking about. This thing's ran a huge amount. Pretty much everything has, right? Sol has. Injective, another one we're looking at, right? So where we're looking at Injective, we were looking at Injective down over here, right? We had what we said we had in this area was we had the key inflection area. If that holds, that's the bid. That's what we talked about. It held at 7, right? It held, and then now it's gone up back towards value area. But those, if you entered Inch based off those, you are currently up, right? And this is from that low, more than a 2x, 106%, right? Again, all of these were called on stream, just like this, right? Literally every single week at the lows we were streaming saying, yeah, that's the level, we have a butterfly, we have so on and so forth, right? We have in our own system, we have the key inflection areas, we have the buy seller zones, everything's holding. If it holds, you get in, right? And that this is why, because, you know, in here, people aren't really active. People don't really take trades because they think, oh, it could go lower. Like, you know, I'll just buy it if the trend shifts. But next thing you know, this has happened. And you realize, oh, shit, I'm already, like, out 50% of the trade, right? And now you've got a smiley face and you've broken out. How are you going to manage your risk over here? You're not. Nor am I going to give any long entries over here. Your first target is still higher, $17.39. That's your type 1 for this butterfly. If you get above that, 6-1 is at $24. If you ever get above this A, your next target is going to be 53,146, and above that, your final target is going to be 58,942 for Injective. Okay, so this is, you know, just very simple. I always say 3-step process, right? 3-step process. You have number 1, and some of you are gonna be like, why does this guy talk about this every week? It's because it's just that important, yet it's just that simple. Number 1, learn to find significant levels. Okay. Number 2, learn to analyze price action at those significant levels. And number 3, learn to do risk managed entries once you've determined an edge based off the price action at your significant levels. I.e., you have a significant level, you wait for price to go there. Once you go there, you look at the price action, you look at order flow, whatever you want to do, right? You try your best to discern what is going on in between the buyers and the sellers. Once you see one side is showing you an edge, right? Once you see buyers is showing you an edge, sellers is showing you an edge, right? Maybe you're seeing that we're going up into resistance and a shit ton of market longs are opening up, but they're not being rewarded. Maybe you're seeing that the sellers are absorbing them. You're seeing SFPs, right? You're seeing candle body closes below. If you see all that, then finally, you know sellers are showing you the edge. So you do step number 3, risk managed entry around your significant level. In this case, you had a significant level, right? We had significant levels marked out way ahead of time. We hit those significant levels. Once we hit those significant levels, we then need to open up order flow. What do we see, right? Look at the candle body closes, all above our significant level. Huge sell-off, got absorbed, right? So we have a significant level, and then after that, which side is showing you the edge? The buyers are, right? So then where was your risk managed entry? Exactly like we talked about. Your risk managed entry was this simple, right? You just take it to, like, you know, wherever you wanted to take it to. But it was as simple as that. 3-step process. You don't need any fancy indicators. You don't need any fancy, you know, this and that. That's all it takes to be profitable in the long run, right? Just those 3 steps. So that's why I mention this every single time I do a stream. It's just to kind of drill it into your guys' heads. Like, you don't need much, right? But yeah, that's injective. Again, you've nothing to do here, right? High low, can a high low come in? Sure. I wish it would come in so I can, like, size up even more because it looks great. High low for me would be here. That'd be a really nice high low. Right, that box there, that'd be a really nice high low. It could be slightly higher here. We don't know. We're just gonna have to wait till we see, right? But yeah, the targets are much higher for injective, right? We can keep going on. We have Aptos, another one we talked about. If I go to Aptos over here, APT, where the hell is the chart? One sec. Should be this. No, I should. Hang on, I'm tripping. It's one of these. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I don't know why I turned it off, but yeah. So we have the entry here for Aptos, right? So we were talking about this again for the longest time. Average was basically to be built up as long as price was holding above 2024 12-month bars on low. You just build your positions out at these around these levels, right? The levels have not changed. The same levels we've been talking about since like January, February, right? We're in the same range still. And again, what we have on Aptos is the last lower high, that left lower low has just been taken out. Okay, so we're just waiting for a high low to come in. The high low could come in a bit deeper. It could carry on pushing up and then come in, right? But whenever the high low does come in, that is going to be the bid if you're still sidelined on Aptos. You just set your key levels out and you just wait, set some alerts up, and then you wait for the high low to come in. Okay, that's it. You just wait for that, aggressive selling going on, but buys absorbing them. Right, things like this, signs that selling is not being rewarded during the impulse down period in which the high low is going to be created, right? But Aptos, another one, right, still at the lows. It's not really moved. It's not really moved at all, right? So if you're talking range, your range highs are all the way up over here. Okay, go rate that at some point. That's a long way up. Okay, so don't feel like you missed out. Yes, you missed out on the initial moves. It's what it is, right? You reap what you sow, sort of, in this case. So the more risk you're willing to, or rather, when you take a risk when no one else is willing to, you get rewarded when no one else is going to be. It's just that way, right? So now more and more people are going to be looking. Yes, the reward is going to be less and less and less, basically, right? Aptos, AVAX, absolutely beautiful, right? AVAX, insane move up. And we talked about AVAX like so long. I literally mentioned this in my last stream as well, right? We did a deep dive into this, but just in case anyone needs a reminder of why AVAX looks so good, this is the reason. This was the line we had drawn down last time, right? Need to take this fucker out. It hadn't been taken out, and it has finally been taken out right over here. So I'm going to draw this on. If you get a pullback to this box and it holds, that could literally be it for AVAX. That could be a high low that sends you higher. Okay, so if you see this being reclaimed and it keeps staying above this area, then that's it for AVAX. If you lose that, then you can come down towards 22, below that towards 20, so on and so forth. You're just going to set alerts and get in when buys step in, right? But AVAX looks absolutely phenomenal, right? And again, just look at last week's, or rather last stream I did if you want to know why. But just in terms of wave structure, this thing, my conservative target for AVAX is $61, right? But honestly, I think you can go minimum like 81 to 83. Above that, you have 94. Above that, you have 113, 131, 162, right? All of these are possible. I do not know how high an asset can go. Right, that's not up to me to decide. There is no TA that can tell you with certainty how high an asset can go, right? All we can do is give ourselves targets and then analyze the price action around those targets. Like I say all the time, don't be a perma bull, don't be a perma bear. Just see what the market's telling you. That's it. Just keep it simple. But AVAX, literally every coin has changed character. We're just waiting for a shift of structure, right? That's it. Flip of trend. That's what we're waiting for, right? AVAX, say, another one, right? If we look at say, those levels we're talking about, right? The ABCD 3.14, the Shark 886, all of this, and on top of that, what else do we have? The 1.13 extension. All we looked at, they were respected, and now on the 3-day, the last lower high that led to the lower low again has been taken out. Higher low did come in and you went higher. So on the 3-day, the trend has already shifted, right? Confirmed. On the weekly, I would argue that this is what needs to be taken out, right? So on a more macro perspective, maybe something like this is what's going to happen. But no matter what, say any macro pullback you get on this, right, is going to be a bit. It's going to be a bit. Even a 4-hour flush, right? If you see the 4-hour flush concludes with seller absorption, is going to be a bit. Okay, you can see all of these are now starting to look extremely, extremely nice. Very, 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 very nice. I'll say it 6 times to really emphasize it. Okay. SWE, did I even mention this one, right? When more than 2x from when we talked about it. So here was our SWE entry. Significant levels based off volume profiles on this, right? Original range, standard deviation 2, value area high. That's the volume profile of this range over here. It's the second standard deviation. Smiley face, you had the diagonal breakout, right? So here and here. You had the supply line, broke out, flipped the low into support, broke out again, smiley face, that sent you higher, right? So even from your actual smiley face entry, that is a 112% move. It's not been that long, right? Within a couple of weeks, basically. So, do you enter SWE now? The answer is, of course, no. I'm not going to be entering SWE here, right? I'm not. The last entry we had on this was right over here, right? The last entry we had was right over there. I gave this one to my own group, but now what we have is if you get a pullback towards 387, 371, right? And this is going to be lower time frame. You do not have an entry on the weekly anytime soon, okay? Unless you get macro flushes, you don't. So you're going to be looking for scalp to swing entry trades. If you get a pullback, let's say down towards 371, right? You stop out all of these people, and then you get to 371 and you see that's holding. Aggressive selling is not being rewarded around this particular level. You're going to take a scalp to swing mindset long from this area. But that's all you can do. You can only really mitigate your risk now off the lower time frame. There is no easy to manage, like, you get in and you just hold for 5x's level to be had here. Because yes, you can say, I'm going to get in here and, I'm going to hold. But the risk with that is, if everyone's bullish here and this is a big trap to just trap everyone and we do flush, you are going to be screwed. I'm not saying it has to happen, but you can't leave it to chance, right? And there is no logical way to manage your risk over here. There's none. Your logical risk management here, you want to see it, is this. That is a 23% stop loss. And for all-time highs, it's literally a 1.5 RR trade. So you're gambling on the fact, to make this trade worthwhile, for me it needs to be at least 3. You're gambling on the fact that SWE is going to definitely reach $6.74 before you get stopped out. Right, so it's just not worth it. Right, this is just not worth it. So it's going to be lower time frame scalp the swing mindset trades from here on out. Right, but that's SWE. No entry to be had otherwise. Trump reclaimed the 886 and is compressing. Right. Crime season, if you go full parabolic, this will send, which is why I've been talking about Trump a lot. But what I mentioned was that 886 is the thing to hold, right? So you have this, you have the smiley face on Trump now. A cumulative structure confirmed, trend shifted. So again, any pullback on this, in my opinion, is a bid. Right? This is a bid for sure. Yeah. So, that's Trump. If you get basically down towards $12 or something, like you could put in another smiley face here, right? If you did this and then held it and went. So maybe around $12, right? If that holds, that's a bid. But what we're doing right now is retesting a very key area, right? And you've held it. Now, locally, the trend is to the downside on the hourly, right? Your higher time frame trend is going to take precedence over this one. But, if the lower time frame trend continues, then something like 12.01 would be a nice entry for Trump before this goes higher again. Ondo, absolutely beautiful, right? It's been very steady price action, no crazy swings. However, what we do have is that area we were talking about for Ondo. I'm going to go over here, right? I gave you guys distinctly 3 PRZs, right? On stream, multiple times we went over this. PRZ number 1, that's your first entry, right? We hit that, we got a nice move. We got stopped at our break even after we took profits. We hit PRZ number 2, that's your next entry. That hit, and that's not giving you a retracement sense, right? In fact, this looks a bit more like a Livermore pivot. So you go, and you just expand. I wouldn't be surprised if Ondo did that here. Okay, so again, Ondo, let's take a look. If you get any sort of pullback towards 95 cents and it holds, most important thing, and it holds, then it's a bid. Right? It's so hard here now because you have so many wicks, so many areas you can potentially come down to. It's just going to be a matter of getting your levels down and hoping it holds, right? So for now, I would look at $1 basically, right? If the dollar holds, you look for the scalp to swing mindset trade on Ondo based off that, and then you're running it to your higher targets. So you have the C, you have the A. We can go down over here. In fact, the external shark we can do this. One sec. Hide, 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 hide. Hide that. We can get rid of this. This is another one, by the way. We talked about this on stream as well. That was the secondary entry I gave, saying, look, you know, if you smiley face here, get in. If you flip this, we got that, but I'm gonna get rid of this. What I'm interested in is, where's it gone? Ooh, another thing, of course, is this. So we can get rid of this one. So hide this and hide this. That is pretty much an 886 there. Right, there you go, yeah. 0.886 has been tagged. That 886 is going to give you a 1.13. So Ondo, $2.33 target based off this wave structure here. Come on, bro. 1.13, there we go. My voice is going. And what else was I looking at? I was looking at this, right? Macro low. From macro low to here, is this a 707? I don't think it is. No, it's a 0.7, close to a 707. Okay, if you have a 707, your retracement is your reciprocal is 1.44. So $2.76 target. Right over here. Right, let's lock this. This and this. Create a group of drawings. We're gonna move this up over here, because that's so now you have two extension targets as well, right? If the low is in, you're going to visit these prices at some point. Okay, once we go parabolic, $2.14, $2.75. After that, you can go even higher. New wave structures might come in, but for now, these are YC for certain, right? One more thing I need to do is, since we have hit this, right? We've hit the. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn this off, right? The ABCD. What we have hit for sure is that BAT, external shark 886, and the external BAT 886, right? I'm gonna take this off the shark, right? So based off this, from that high, now to that shark low, here's your targets. First target is at $1.23, second is at $1.57, your projection is at $3.06. So we now have a lot of targets, for why we could go higher basically. Right, we have this D point, then we have this D, then we have the primary projection, and as more wave structures come along the way, we can add more, right? But for now, you now have massive extension targets on Ondo. You're now focusing on these swings, trying to catch this to these higher prices here. Okay, so that's Ondo. So anytime this holds above a key level, it's a bid, right? And this is why I recommend scalp to swings, because eventually you will, if you're frequent with it, you will catch that scalp to swing that will take you to those higher prices. So you can make up for the fact you didn't bid when you needed to by managing your risk here, right? It's more high frequency, you're going to get stopped out more, that's a given, right? Because your risk is just going to be that much harder to manage on the lower time frame now, but it's worth it in my opinion, right? Scalp to swing is worth it. The other option is to just buy spot with conviction. If you buy spot with conviction, you don't have to worry about a stop loss. But again, that is now that's not me saying go buy spot without any stop loss, right? Because there's no guarantees Ondo has to go to these targets. What if it just rocks? I doubt it, but what if it does, right? So you know, this is the period of time where buying spot and just forgetting about it is a bit more beneficial, right? Because that way you're not really getting chopped out. You're focusing on the higher time frame. But I don't recommend it, honestly. I just scalp to swing it. So much easier. Just scalp to swing it. But that's Ondo, right? Hype, another one we talked about. And this one, again, you know, all the receipts for every single one of these plays is literally for free on YouTube. You just have to go and look at it, right? All these streams, just go look back at the streams I've done. These are the exact same levels, exact same areas I've been mentioning for the longest time. So, for hype, what did I say? If you ever lose 1184, expect $9.56. We've got $9.50. That was the literal bottom, right? My entry on this is now $9.90 something. I was manually entering all these positions, so I couldn't ping 56 itself. I didn't want to set a limit order, right? But I am not complaining because I am up really, really nice on this bag, right? Extremely, extremely nice on this bag. And we are looking Like as long as you hold this diagonal now, that's the thing, right? Because the trend shifted here. So as long as you hold this diagonal, you just aren't even going to be going lower. That's the thing. Anytime you're above now, the 2024 12-month seller zone low, you're going to be looking for scalp to swing trades up towards ultimately 12-month seller zone mid, $29. Okay. You can still make a lot of money off leverage, but of course the risk with that is you need to know what you're doing. You need to have confidence. If you don't know what you're doing, you will get absolutely wrecked on leverage before the actual move plays out. Okay. You can take this with spot too. You can take a leverage trade as spot, so you could go all in with your spot bag, which is very tight in validations, right? But again, you could get stopped out like 3 or 5 times before you go up, and that's of course going to have an impact on your back size and your confidence, right? So how you trade this up to you, all I'm going to give you is the key levels and what you're watching for. For hype, you're watching for, as long as these hold, right, these diagonals, as long as these hold and this holds, you're looking to go continue the trend higher. You're not even looking for any flushes. Okay. If you turn this into resistance, then maybe you get a deeper pullback, and then maybe you know, I'd love a flush back to $16. I love it if you got it. Do we get it? I don't know, right? But above 24.06, let me tell you, you have no reason to be expecting lower. Above this, your thought should be maybe we can keep on pushing higher. If you turn this to resistance, you can look for a short instead to like lower, like, you know, key areas of interest to then try and bid those, right? But as long as you're above 24.06, you are not going to be getting lower prices. Okay, so anytime you pull back to this level and it holds, it's a long. Scalp to swing mindset long. So that is hype. Doge, another one, right? We went over, we pretty much hit that 886. Same zones we were talking about, zone 1, zone 2, right? Insane move up, right? Now for Doge, it's very simple. If you can, this is a scalp I entered on a different stream earlier, right? So I've taken my profits, put my stop loss to break even. But if you can stay above 0.23183, you're gonna go higher, right? You're gonna go higher. If you can't, then you have a chance of pulling back down towards 22 cents. 22 cents still, right? Just different denominations. So 227, 222, and then 215, so on and so forth, right? But this gray box is what you're interested in because this is your daily buy zone, right? If you lose this, then you go lower. But that's why you literally just play level to level. That's all you can do. Okay. Again, I would love a retest of this. I would absolutely love a retest of, hang on, let me put that down again. This area, right? Because we've broken out, we've not really retested this. I would love for this retest. But do we get it is the important question, right? Set some alerts up. If you get those between 20 cents to 19 cents, hopefully you guys realize, just looking at it, it's going to be a bid. Okay, it's going to be a bid. Last but not least, Powell nearly hit our target, right? I'm so mad, right? I closed this out by accident literally the other day. In fact, let me just, one sec. I'll share it as a receipt. Literally the other day. Because the problem is, right? So MEXC isn't technically allowed in the UK, right? Therefore, their app got delisted from the App Store, right? Which means I couldn't trade using the app anymore, right? However, I can still use the Safari basically, right? I can still use Safari to trade with, but the problem is Safari, the UI shit, right? It's laggy as hell. Another problem is I'm a scalper. I'm either a swinger or a scalper. I don't do the intraday stuff, right? I'm either in with the lower time frame with size or the higher time frame with size. I don't like messing around with low size on the medium time frame, right? So I've not got the confirmations box settings ticked, which means, when you normally hit market long, market short, TP, ask you like, are you sure you want to do this, right? That confirmation box, I got rid of that, right? On all exchanges, I don't have that. The problem is when I was scrolling on my phone, my finger, when I was scrolling on the screen, landed on close long. And since I don't have the confirmation, it just closed the bloody long, right? Which is peak because I closed that at an average of 0.14, right? And I walked away with 34k profits on that trade, but the reason I'm mad is not because of how much profit I made, it's more because if that is the low, right, and this went to way higher targets like up this, you can imagine how much that would have turned into, right? That's the only reason I'm mad. I worked really hard for that entry because you see how choppy it was around that key level. I worked super hard for that entry and I just fat fingered it like an absolute chocolate diet. Yeah, so I'm out of my power long just for transparency's sake. Right, I would look for a re-entry, but now it's like, I'm just not going to long with the same size because now it's so much more risky longing with the same size over here. If they give me some sort of capitulation wick, that's a lot of money lost, right? So yeah, it's just peak, but it's what it is. If we do get a high low, I will still be like building a position on this on PAL, this AI play still, right? But that is, so let's move on to Focus V2 next because we have a load more harmonics to look at, right? Cetus. How many times did I tell you guys about Cetus? I said Total DeFi looks good. Cetus is my bet because I think Sui's gonna do well. Please tell me some of you entered this, right? Because from where we were looking at this, my average on Cetus is literally 0.08 something, the low, right? We are up 176%. Literally, this was within a few days. Literally within a few days. Right, Cetus extremely beautiful, and you know, again, many are also doing this right now. Nasty looking candle, right? If it's a trap or not, I don't know. But all of these lower highs, like basically the liquidity all the way up until here, has no, it hasn't. They've left this behind. That is extremely diabolical. They have not taken this out yet. So one more pump up could very much be possible to take this out. Basically, I'll leave that on. But otherwise, the flush on Cetus for me would be let's stop these people out, right? And then if you could get Cetus at these prices, I would just add more. Very simple. I'm going to be focusing very, very hard on the Sui ecosystem. And I'm going to drop near enough 7 figures across the Sui ecosystem. Right? I think Sui is going to go absolutely... Just because, like, just think about it. What's rallied the hardest when Bitcoin pumped from the lows? It's been Sui and everything on the Sui, right? Cetus absolutely went. It went absolutely parabolic, right? Deep. I didn't even know this project existed until one of my one-on-one clients told me about it. This thing absolutely ran as well. So if you look at Deep, I did the TA for this after, right? Full disclosure, I'm not in this because I didn't know this project existed until my client brought it up to me. But this one had beautiful structure, right? You literally hit the deep Cartley, the 886, and then that is what sent you higher. You've hit the second target already, right? So again, for this, if we get a pullback towards that C, 0.5, so on and so forth, we've hit the 0.382 for now, which is good, right? One thing people get wrong about fibs is they think it has to go to the 618. That's not wrong. Your shallow golden pocket is the most important one when your trend is strong. That's been respected for now, but just in case we do get base of this candle one more flush, right? For me, something around the 0.5, the 414 to the 0.5 would be beautiful. If you literally held that, you know, basically held this low, I'd be looking to long this up towards 52 cents. Even from here, that's a 246% pump if you get it. So I've got my eyes peeled, right? Another one is this WAL. Just some significant levels on the screen. If you look at this on the weekly, I mean, what do I even say to this? 1 sec. 4 hours. Right, well, we can see this very, very engineered. If you ever get a flush of that, something like 47 cents is going to be a bid, in my opinion, right? That's if it holds, of course. I'm not saying sell limits. If it doesn't hold, then you just keep your hands away until it either reclaims or until the next level gets hit, so on and so forth, right? But this is another one. Another way you can long this, of course, is now if you go and you get a flip of this, right? That's going to be a momentum-based trade, okay? That's a momentum trade right there. Let's do this. So we go and we do this. If that happens, again, that's a momentum-based long. You're just in, scalp the swing mindset. You just book the profits because you're going to expand up. Above this, you just don't have anything. Your next target is pretty much... wait 1 sec. Your next target is going to be... There, we do have something. So... 0.75. Okay, so if you get that flip, you know, targeting 0.75 from 0.69 for a scalp, like you can still say make some money off it. Right? That's the point. And then the last one is, of course, Haidal, however you say this, right? It's based on Sui. All of these are the ones I found on so far that are based on Sui. For Haidal, I'm already in on this with a starter position. Okay. When I saw the front run of the Gartley, but I would hope for one more flush down, right? I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get it because the trend is shifted, right? So I don't even know if we're gonna get this Gartley 786. But what I would hope for is maybe something. This is, I don't know. Okay, if you ever get below this, let's put it this way. If you ever get below this box, because I don't want to say just flush down for no reason when you're attempting to shift trend, right? If you ever get below this box, like this, right? Maybe you do this and this distributive structure. I would expect to flush down somewhere around here, hold, and then higher, perhaps. So if you get lower before higher, that's where I'm interested in adding more to my size. If not, then if you ever flip 17 cents into support, for example, right? You do something like this, that 17 cent entry could very easily take you towards 25. But ultimately, though, right? Here's your daily breakout, right? If you close above on the daily, you're looking for the next hour, right? For the next day, tomorrow, if the hourly comes back into this box and is successful, it holds. Again, you can look for scalp to swing mindset, scalp to swing mindset trades, longs in this case if it holds up towards your next targets. Okay, or everything on the Sui ecosystem. But apart from that, right, there's so much, right? ENA we looked at, insane move up of our lows. Right? Who remembers this one? We talked about this for the longest time as well, right? Insane move up of our lows on ENA, right? Again, entry is if you get a pullback to 3680. Simple. Why? You have macro point of control there, i.e., you know, if you take into account the entire trading history of ENA on Bybit, which has the most data, this is where the most trading has occurred at 3680. So it's significant, right? And you have a weekly seller zone in that area from history. If you can flip this area into support, that's your bid for ENA. Just go and set a, literally, if you're going to try to get into this, I want you guys to open your screen right now, go and type in 0.3680 with the horizontal line, just set an alert. If it's hear that alert go off, just quickly check back to the chart, and if you see it being defended on whatever time frame you're after, right? If you're looking for scalps, you're looking at the minutes. If you're looking for swings, you're looking at the daily or higher, right? If you're looking at intraday, 1 hour to 4 hours, so on and so forth. Whatever type of time frame trade you're after, if you see the successful retest of this level, you just bid. That's it. Okay, but that's CNA. TON, right? You know, just still holding the area that we need to hold. All this that was once resistance, still support. If it's lost the support, 886, but if it's not, we're gonna go higher, right? XMR. How many times did I say XMR looks good? I mentioned this a few times, and now, you know, again, loads of Pikachu faces across CT for why is XMR the downer coin pumping? But we know, like I mentioned, right? You could have so much accumulation going on here for XMR, which is why I mentioned it for so long, right? So now my target is simple. For the harmonic itself, right? Let me delete that once. Actually, let me leave that on, but turn it invisible. Let's get data for this harmonic. Again, it's not a harmonic in your traditional sense, right? But I'm gonna do it nonetheless. There you go. You rejected off your first target, you're going towards your second target. Above this, your primary projection is 779.30, and you have a 786 with a 1.272 at 629.15. So here's your two extension targets, 629.15 and 779.30, right? Everything is now in the expansion phase, and again, this is why I gave the warning so often, saying like, this is where you pay attention. This is not the time to be overly bearish, right? There was a couple months of me saying that, saying, look, this look good, this looks good, I'm in this, we're entering this, right? If no one bid at that time, then I can't help find you a really good entry now after everything's pumped. How am I meant to give you an entry on XMR now? I could very easily give an entry down at these levels, which is why I kept mentioning it. I mentioned it down over here when this was holding. I mentioned it at the flip of the green box, right? I cannot in good conscience tell you to go and buy XMR now. I can't. It's the same with every one of these alts, right? Which is why my simple thesis is just wait for the higher low to come in. That's it. Because I would not be longing anything that is going parabolic, especially if I'm in from the lows and ruining my average for no reason. I want a higher low. That's going to be my next round of buys. Otherwise, whatever cash remaining I've got, I'll just open up a challenge account or just buy some spot that is looking like, you know, low, put it into some meme coins, whatever, right? There's always going to be another opportunity to make your money work for you, but you're not always going to get the opportunity to make your money work for you at such an easy manner. And I understand, and for those of you, like, you know, maybe this is your first cycle, you've not experienced these moves before, it might not have been easy to pull the trigger there, right? Because you know it's already up from 109, whatever. But hopefully you can see now why it's important to have the bigger perspective in mind. Right, because now looking back in hindsight, that was extremely easy to manage your risk, and I gave you guys that risk managed entry here. Extremely easy to manage your risk here. Even so, over here, all of these were levels we were streaming, we were talking about. Right, you'll see as it gets higher and higher, it becomes progressively and progressively harder to manage your risk. Okay. If this is your first cycle, don't worry about it. Right, it's very, very like maybe 0.01% of the population makes it off the first cycle. You're gonna have another cycle. Right, there's going to be a bear market. We'll catch some shorts. I'll be streaming then too. There's going to be another bull market, you know, by the end of the year, whenever, right? Whenever the market looks like it's ready for another bull market, whenever this one finishes, I'll be streaming then too, right? Maybe, well, I don't know. I'm not going to speak 5 years ahead of time, but for up until this cycle ends, I'll definitely be here for sure, right? So just, if this is your first cycle, just take it as a learning opportunity. That's what you can do. What I don't want you to do is what many first cyclists do: start buying at ridiculous prices, buy high, sell low, buy high, sell low, chop a portfolio to zero on the way up. I've seen that happen to plenty of beginners. Okay, that's something you don't want happening. But a lot of coins, right? Link, another one. Many of these, like, we talked about in video, I gave it in my server, but the ones I did give in my own server, I recorded and put it on YouTube so everyone else could see it anyway, right? So you guys should have all seen this if you watch my YouTube videos. CRV, right? Beautiful entry off that bat, insane move up. Link, beautiful entry off that bat, insane move up, first target hit, right? Aave, beautiful entry off your first PRZ, insane move up, first target hit. Akash, beautiful entry here, first target hasn't even been hit, nowhere near close, right? Fed, beautiful entry, again, first target has not been hit, nowhere near close, right? But we're now up significantly. All of these are up like minimum 60-70% from the lows. Aero, right over here, beautiful entry off the lows, and again, first target hasn't been hit, but again, that's like a more than a 60% pump from the lows, right? So if you guys have been watching the videos, you've been following along, all of these are entries. Even this one, this was recorded and put on YouTube, right? It's not hit the targets yet, but it's well on its way. And over here, look how easy it was to manage your risk. How are you going to manage your risk over here? You're not. There is no risk management here now. That's the problem, right? So when the opportunity is good like this, again, when we do get the macro flush and you see you're getting good opportunities, please don't be like, oh, but we might go lower. Like, if you think that, just go in with a portion of your allocation. But please never ever be completely sidelined when you're in discount. That's not how you make money. Okay. But yeah, so that is everything I wanted to go over in today's session. Do you guys have any questions about anything we've gone over today? If not, I'll end the recording here. I'll put it up on YouTube. If you guys are interested in the way I trade, right, I'm going to be running my one-on-ones for a few more months. So just reach out, right? Once the markets go parabolic again, I'm not going to be taking anyone new on. But apart from that, I should be streaming next. I will be. In fact, no. Let me rephrase that. I will be streaming next week. I don't have anything planned for next week, I don't think. So unless something crazy happens and there's a free slot, I might stream again. But otherwise, yeah, that's going to be it from me, right? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this session. And yeah, just, if you got any questions, you wanted to look at a chart for you or something like this, just ping me in crypto chat. I'll get to you when I see it. Okay. No problem, Miranda. Red Shaker. No problem at all. My pleasure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this session. No problem, Sanchez. Thanks for your support, man. No problem, bro, Batman. Yeah, I'll catch you Wednesday, bro, for our next session. Right. I'll end this recording here then.